The saloon doors creaked under the weight of laughter and whiskey that night. Lantern lights spilled out into the dusty street, painting the ground gold. Inside, men played cards, cursed luck, and slammed their mugs against the counter. Outside, the air was colder and quieter. That was where she stood, the Apache widow wrapped in a torn blanket, her bare feet thick with dust, her eyes hollow but proud. She hadn't come to beg, not truly. Hunger had dragged her here, but pride still held her spine straight. When she spoke, her voice trembled, but it carried the dignity of 1,000 broken hearts. "Just a little food," she said in rough English. "Please." The laughter inside rolled louder, and then he stepped out, the man everyone called Bo Thorne, the richest rancher for 3 counties. His boots were polished, his hat white, his smile the kind that dared others to envy him. But that night there was cruelty behind it. His friends followed, stumbling with drink, their faces red from whiskey and arrogance. Bo looked down at her like she was dust, something beneath notice. "Ain't no food for beggars," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "And sure as hell not for redskins." She didn't flinch. "Then may the spirits feed you what you deserve," she whispered. The men laughed, but Bo didn't. Pride burned in him hotter than the liquor. "Say that again?" he hissed, stepping closer. She stared straight into his eyes, and for a moment he saw something ancient there, something that didn't fear him. That only made it worse. With a sudden movement, he lifted his boot and kicked her hard in the ribs. She gasped, stumbling back into the dirt. The sound of laughter filled the night as she coughed blood into the dust. "Should have stayed with your kind," Bo sneered, spitting near her feet before turning away. The other men followed, still chuckling, their laughter fading into the glow of the saloon. The widow stayed on the ground for a long while, the stars above her swimming in a blur of tears and pain. When she finally pushed herself up, she pressed her palm to her bleeding lip, then to the earth beneath her. "The land remembers," she whispered in Apache. "And the spirits do not forget." She vanished into the night like smoke. The next morning, Bo woke late, his head pounding. The ranch yard was already buzzing. A horse had gone missing, one of his best stallions. He cursed, ordered his men to find it, and laughed it off as bad luck. But that was only the beginning. By dusk, 2 more horses were gone. The next day, his prize bull was found dead, throat torn open, eyes wide as if it had seen death itself. The ranch hands whispered, crossing themselves, muttering about curses. Bo silenced them with threats. "Ain't no spirit touching my land," he growled. "It's thieves and are cowards." That night the wind came hard. It howled through the canyon, slamming barn doors, rattling windows. Bo woke to the sound of something scratching at his porch. When he stepped outside, gun in hand, the night was empty, except for the single feather lying on the steps. Black and red, slick with something that looked too much like blood. He kicked it aside and spat. "Tricks," he muttered. Nothing more. But when dawn came, his cattle were gone. All of them. The men searched for miles, but the ground showed no trail, no prints, nothing. Only circles of disturbed dust and strange markings burned into the sand. Some said it looked like fire, others said it was spirit writing. By the 3rd day, Bo stopped sleeping. His reflection haunted him, dark circles under his eyes, a twitch in his jaw. He rode out himself that afternoon, determined to prove everyone wrong. The sun was merciless, the air sharp with heat. He followed the ridge road, the same one leading toward the reservation lands. That was when he saw her. She stood in the distance, wrapped in the same torn blanket, her hair whipping in the wind. Beside her, a small fire burned in a circle of stones, and behind her, he blinked, stood shadows that didn't belong to her. His horse snorted and stopped. "Go on then," she called, voice clear as glass. "Collect what's yours." Bo swallowed, the sweat on his neck turning cold. "You think you can scare me, woman?" he barked. Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "No," she said softly. "You already fear yourself." She lifted her hand and threw something into the fire. It flashed green, then red, then white. The ground trembled. His horse reared, throwing him hard into the dirt. When he looked up, the shadows behind her moved, not like people, but like smoke come alive. "Make it stop," he shouted, crawling backward. Her voice echoed with something beyond human, a chorus that rose from the canyon walls. "The land remembers. The blood remembers." Bo scrambled to his feet, running toward his horse. But when he looked back, she was gone. Only the fire remained, burning in silence. By the time he reached his ranch again, the place was in ruins. The barn had collapsed. The fields were bare. The wind carried the stench of death. His men were gone, every last one. Some said they'd quit. Others whispered they'd vanished in the night. Bo fell to his knees in the yard, his chest heaving. The land was quiet, too quiet. Then he heard it, a whisper, a woman's voice. The spirits remember. He screamed her name, though he had never known it. Days later, a traveler passing through found Bo's ranch empty. The doors hung open, the fire dead. No sign of struggle. Just a single black feather lying on the porch steps, and Bo Thorne's boots left neatly beside the door, as if he'd walked barefoot into the desert and never come back. And miles away, in the canyon, the Apache widow stood beneath the rising sun. Her eyes were calm, her wounds healed. Around her neck hung a charm made of feathers and bone. The spirits had kept their promise. The earth had taken what was owed. The town never spoke his name again, but every time the wind howled through the canyon, the people swore they could hear it, laughter turning into a scream, carried forever on the desert air. The wind howled low through the canyon, carrying dust and the scent of fear. Bo Thorne hadn't slept in days. Every night the sounds came, hooves pounding in the dark, voices whispering from nowhere. He'd light a lamp, step out onto his porch, gun in hand, and find nothing but silence. The town had stopped visiting his ranch. His men had stopped showing up. The bravest of them claimed the place was cursed. Bo laughed it off in daylight, but when night came, his laughter died with the sun. He had buried 2 men already, both found lifeless near the stables, their faces twisted in terror. No wounds, no signs of struggle, just fear, pure, unexplainable fear. He had money, guns, and land, but for the first time in his life, Bo was powerless. On the 4th night, as the full moon rose, he decided to end it. "Ain't no woman or spirit can scare me off my own land," he muttered, loading his rifle. He saddled his last good horse, the only one that hadn't bolted, and rode toward the canyon where the widow had vanished. The land was silent. The stars seemed to hide. Every sound, the creak of the saddle, the whisper of wind, felt like a warning. Bo rode deeper into the valley, following the faint glow of firelight flickering in the distance. His heart hammered. He hadn't prayed in years, but now he found himself whispering to a God he barely believed in. And then he saw her. She stood by the fire, tall and still, her blanket gone, replaced by the garments of a warrior. Her long black hair was braided tight, feathers and bones woven through it. The flicker of flames caught her eyes, turning them into burning embers. In her hands she held a bow carved from dark wood, its string drawn taut, an arrow already aimed at him. Bo froze. "Don't," he said, voice cracking despite himself. The widow didn't speak at first. Her face was calm, too calm. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet and colder than the desert night. "The spirit said you would come, that your pride would lead you here." "I came to make it right," Bo said quickly, though his hands shook. "Whatever you want, gold, cattle, horses, and it's yours." Her gaze didn't waver. "You took more than gold," she said. "You took what can't be bought back." Bo opened his mouth, but no words came. The fire popped and the sound echoed like a gunshot. "I didn't mean to." "Didn't mean to?" she interrupted sharply. "You meant every kick, every laugh, every drop of blood that fell that night." Bo swallowed, shame burning through him, but pride still clawed at his chest. "I was drunk," he whispered. "I didn't know." "You knew enough to aim your boots at a starving woman," she said, her voice trembling now, not with fear but with fury. "You knew enough to make a crowd watch and do." "Nothing." He lowered his rifle. "Then what now?" he asked hoarsely. "You gonna kill me?" She took a slow step closer, her bow never lowering. "Death is too kind for you." The air shifted. The fire bent sideways as if a wind had passed through, yet Bo felt none. A whisper rose, faint but unmistakable, like voices from beneath the ground. He spun around, eyes wide. Shapes moved in the dark, shadowed figures, neither fully human nor ghost. Their outlines wavered like smoke, their eyes pale and glowing. "The spirits of those you wronged," the widow said softly. "They came to watch." Bo's breath quickened. He fired his rifle blindly into the dark. Once, twice, 3 times. Each shot cracked like thunder echoing through the canyon, but the figures didn't move. Didn't flinch. His last bullet clicked empty. The silence that followed was worse than any scream. The widow stepped forward, lowering her bow. "You don't understand," she said almost gently. "This isn't my vengeance. It's theirs." Before he could move, before he could beg, the ground trembled. His horse reared and bolted, leaving him alone. The earth split open near the fire. Not deep, but enough to send sand pouring into a hollow blackness below. The whispers grew louder, rising in a chorus of sorrow and rage. Bo fell to his knees, clutching his chest. He tried to speak, but his voice was gone. The widow stood over him, her expression unreadable. "You mocked the hungry. You spilled blood for sport. Now the land takes its due." Bo gasped, his fingers clawing at the dirt. "Please," he managed, eyes wild. "I'm sorry." The flames flickered blue. The shadows drew closer, wrapping around him like smoke. His scream tore through the canyon, rising, fading, then silence. When it was over, there was nothing left but his hat, half buried in the sand, and the echo of his voice carried by the wind. The widow knelt, closing her eyes. For a moment she looked older, wearier, as though vengeance had taken more from her than it had given. She whispered in Apache, her voice soft and heavy with sorrow, "It is done." When she opened her eyes again, the spirits were gone. The canyon was still. Only the fire remained, burning steady and bright. She turned and began to walk, her shadow stretching long behind her. By dawn, she reached the edge of town. People saw her coming. The same men who had watched her crawl through the dust days before. Now they lowered their eyes. None spoke. None dared. She passed them in silence, head high, walking toward the rising sun. Later that day, a ranch hand found Bo's horse wandering near the creek, saddle torn, eyes rolling white. The man followed the tracks into the canyon, but when he reached the spot there was no sign of Bo. No blood, no body. Just the faint outline of a handprint burned into the ground and a single black feather lying in the dirt. The ranch fell silent after that. Some said the widow cursed it, others said the spirits had taken it back. Grass never grew there again. And as for her, she disappeared into the desert. Some travelers swore they saw her years later, living among a small Apache band far north, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes still sharp as firelight. When they asked her name, she only said, "I am the woman the spirits spared." But on certain nights when the wind was right, the people of the town claimed they could hear laughter. A cruel, hollow laugh carried through the canyons, and beneath it, a woman's voice whispering to the land, "The earth remembers.